Good evening, everyone. Welcome to everyone at home and welcome to everyone here. Welcome you to the June 12th meeting of the Board of Selectmen, our first meeting for this year. At the outset, two announcements. One is to welcome Bob Springett to the board and to welcome everyone here. Bob, as many of you know, newly elected to the board this year, so congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Number two is to announce that we're having our summer attire. So for those of you that are watching at home and wondering where our jackets and ties are and everybody else's formal attire, we are in our summer attire. So feel free, relax, feel summery. Our first order of business this evening is to reorganize the board and to be able to move forward. For that, I am going to turn to Ms. Hunter and ask for a motion for the
Mr. Jeffrey, I move that you be chair of the committee for the 2018-2019 season, so to speak.
And
Do I have a second?
My second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our second order of business is from a
Where's
meeting.
his gavel?
Mona, no gavel.
You're
Our
not
second
official
order,
till you get the
we get a
gavel.
gavel. Our second order of business is for me to nominate, and thank you very much, Mr. Ramsey.
Order!
Jerry Clark is not here, so. Second order of business is for me to nominate Robin Hunter as clerk. So I move that we approve Robin as clerk for the fiscal year. Make it a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And of course, we move to accept Bob Springett as a member for the year, and I move that we accept Bob for this calendar year.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So,
We're reorged.
we're reorganized, we are official. That was...
Did you get all that,
Mona?
Time to leave.
So easy.
Just start.
It's all gonna be easy from here, Bob. So, now that, for those of you that have been watching at home, for those of you here, know that for the past 185 years, the town of Dover has had 2 women and 1 man on the Board of Selectmen. And so, like Han Solo, now that order has been restored to the universe, there are 2 men and 1 woman.
I need the gavel.
Here's the gavel. Mr. Springett asked if we could put a 96-inch flat screen TV in the selectman's office. I said we take that under advisement. So our first order of business is to to approve the Cemetery Commission's offense recommendation, or recommendation from the Cemetery Commission. So Pope, would you like to speak on that, please? And Pope Hoffman from the Cemetery Commission is here with us this evening.
Thank you.
Goodies for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pope.
What's that?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
A lot of this is redundant
Thank you.
from last year, but let me just give you an overview. Maybe for Bob's edification. About a year and a half ago, I'm probably my dates wrong, we came before the selectmen requesting funds from the Chickering Fund for creation of a stone wall. And there was a lot of concern from Mr. Bowles and Mr. Petty about that they had bought their property with a fence in place, and they wanted to have a fence remain. So we looked into the possibility of a stone wall and a stockade fence on top of the stone wall, or right behind it. And the cost was going to be pretty darn expensive. Plus, we felt that in order to do, if we tried to get that combination, it would be best to get one contractor. I couldn't find anyone who would build a stone wall plus a fence. So then, keeping in mind Bowles and Petty's request, we decided to abandon the stone wall and go with chicken fence. There are funds, and there's backup in there, chicken funds to pay for the fence. In fact, one of the chicken funds paid the existing fence about 25, 26 years ago. So now we're at the point where we're requesting funds again. We're requesting $21,000. There are 2 quotes in your packet. If approved, we'd like to go with reliable fence, which is just under $17,000. And the reason we're requesting $21,000 is just in case it goes over, but also we've got a situation at the end of the existing fence by the Williams property that there's a post and rail fence. And so if you approve the funds, then that gives us the option of extending a new fence along the boundary. So that's basically it. There would be a period of probably 2 weeks, and I know you were concerned about this, between the fence coming down and the new fence going up. And 2 reasons mainly for that is you can't do it all at the same time, obviously, but Norfolk County Engineering needs to come in and demark the actual boundary over a string or whatever, so we know exactly where the new fence would go. And they requested for us to give them 1 or 2 weeks notice to do that. So, it could be a week's or 2 weeks, but we also looked into different types of fences, and the quote we've got, and it's a photograph of the type of fence, is a 6-foot solid cedar fence, which we feel is a lot more attractive. It's probably $12,000 more than a stockade fence, but it's one of the fence companies said don't even consider stockade fence, and I can show you a picture. It's a lot more attractive. So that's it. Lena has decided not to sign the document we've had there because she still prefers a stone wall. So that's why her signature is. You might want to say something.
Thanks, other questions come to the floor.
Okay. So that's basically it. We'd like to get this approved, obviously not approved tonight, but we'd like to get it approved as soon as possible, so that we can proceed and get this done, during the summertime.
Great, thanks, thank you, Pope. With regard to the fence that you looked at, one of the things that Ian and I and Jimmy Petty and a couple of the other neighbors spoke about just earlier is the uniform, make sure the fence was uniform in nature and the height was uniform in nature. Is the property that you're talking about, Pope, at the end of the property, sort of on the furthest eastbound side? Is that right, Carol? Where it slopes down behind?
Yeah, it replaces the existing stockade fence.
Okay.
And so obviously it would be uniform in height and in appearance.
Ian, do you have questions, concerns?
No, I was just mentioning, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and Pope, Mr. Chairman.
Can you say it again?
I mean, just 2 comments that, I think there's one little part of the fence at the westward end where it turns back south, and then turns back west again, that my previous owner before us replaced, and I think we want to have a fence there, and so my feeling is that it'd be better to replace that fence at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to contribute to that if you want that. But otherwise, I think we're going to want to keep, there's a place where our evergreens end, if you walked up there, you'll know what I'm talking about. So not a big deal. And then the second is just the delay. We figured out the property boundary being the existing fence, so hopefully Norfolk can kind of do their work quickly. We'd obviously prefer not to have it because it's open to the cemetery visitors.
Right. I mean, they put in the boundaries, the granite posts and so forth, so all we need is really a string or a rope.
Yeah, no, that's great, I appreciate it. Thank you, good to work with you all on it.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Carol, is there anything you'd like to add?
We just love to have you approve the money from our different funds.
Perfect.
So that we can have that by the fall. We don't want to drag on people or, it's gone long enough.
Right.
Reliable Fence also has told us the sooner the better. They're working right now into middle of July, I think it is.
So, there's a history behind this request. And so I just wanted to make sure, I see Mr. Bowles is here, and I just want to make sure that all of the neighbors are satisfied with the resolution because of A, the boundary, and B, replacing the stockade fence with this. And I have to agree with you, Pope, it's a more attractive fence.
Yeah, I don't think I can't speak for Jim, but Jim and Eve's, concern was replacing fence with a fence, so they've gone on record on that, so I don't see the need for me to.
Yeah, I can say that I spoke to Jim Rapetti, who said he couldn't make it tonight, but he's of the same view I am of replacing the fence, so I know that he's comfortable with that. And I'm sure whoever's going to implement it can just get in touch when it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. What we would do is, once the funds are approved, we contact Reliable Fence. They're going to want a 50% deposit, and then we'll get a letter off. As soon as the funds are approved, before we contact them, we'll get a letter off to you, Williams, and Jim, saying here's what we plan to do, and here's an approximate timeline.
That is great.
May I ask a clarifying question, Mr. Chairman? Is everyone agreed on the type of fence that it will be? I'm just looking at pictures. It looks like there are different types of fences in this picture here. Have you seen them?
I do it.
Closed board.
At the lower left, I put a big check mark.
Oh.
That's the front, and that's not the back, the lower.
That's great.
But I was assuming that was the one.
What?
I assumed this was the one.
Yeah.
My glasses were.
And there'll be cedar vertical posts and not pressure treated.
Well, that still remains, the quote is for, interestingly enough, putting the cedar, the pressure treated posts are $400 less than cedar posts. Cedar posts are more attractive because it just blends completely in. The pressure treated posts are darker. So then there comes the question, do we go now for aesthetic purposes and say in 15 years down the road, if the posts have to be replaced, that's,
So what we're saying then is that pressure-treated posts
or less expensive.
are less expensive
last longer.
but last longer.
Yeah, and no one obviously can tell me, exactly how long they last, but
Right.
the guy from Reliable said probably, 3 or 4 years, something like that.
So it appears then in this picture, even though it's not a good picture, that the posts may be pressure-treated because they are darker.
Those are pressure treated posts in the picture. As you can see, they're darker.
Right.
Well, it's been a lot of work from a lot of people. We've walked the property twice. I did, before inviting Ian Bowles and Jim Rapetti, had the conversation with them, Pope, and during the conversation, thanked you, your committee, and everybody for the process. The great part about it is you walk all the way around the property from the school and the cemetery property, and you end up at Craig's house.
For lunch.
For lunch.
Our next thing is we're fencing his house.
So, Bob, anything to add?
No, I've been briefed on the history, so I have a little bit of understanding, but I'm kind of late to this game.
And just to state the obvious, everybody's happy with the boundary.
Yes.
The boundaries.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons that Craig is here, to make sure that Joe McNichols coordinates us, so we place it once, and that's it.
Right.
Joe may require some lead time. I tried to get
I mentioned that.
him on 46 Springdale, and he said he's swamped.
He's given me, and I don't have it here, but he's given me an email, 1 to 2 weeks.
Oh, good. Good.
And I mentioned that, I think, in the cover letter. Maybe I didn't, but I mentioned it.
Yeah, I'm there to assist any way I can, that's all.
So-
I think it's been great to come full circle. This is what we're doing, going on, thank God. Due diligence by the Board of Cemetery, very, very nice. Can I ask one question? Yeah, is there any swimming pool? Do you have a pool?
Yeah.
And do you use that fence as part of your protection?
No, it's an
Okay.
indoor pool.
Okay.
Well,
I
that's a,
just want to
that's a
say that
good
the
question.
most important thing is to make sure that the southern boundary is now correct.
Yes.
Because it's been incorrect for
A long time.
For a very long time.
years.
Now, what I did not mention in here, and I just thought of it again, we may have to remove a couple of trees. I think they're on the Petties, back up to the Petties.
There's one on my property that the fence runs into both sides of,
I know that,
which
yeah.
you can continue to.
Well, if the boundary's on there, we can do it with the fence company.
Yeah, no, they'll come into the sides of the trees. And certainly, we don't have any desire to cut down. There's some major oaks there, and we certainly do not want to remove them. But there are also a lot of much smaller, early, very recent growth. There would be no harm to remove them.
Now, the good side of the fence, just so you know, is going to be facing the cemetery.
I understand that, and I concur with your judgment, Mr. Chairman. I think that's most reasonable.
That side doesn't look that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's great.
It looks like an upgrade from what's there right now.
Absolutely.
It is.
Well,
Anything is an upgrade.
a stockade fence is pretty unfriendly. and
Good chunks of it.
By
last
definition.
storm, and I have a very close back while holding up. On my side, so the cemetery views on it to see them.
Well, that's great. Well, I'd accept a motion to approve the $21,000, Bob, that's correct?
Well, that's great.
I'll
Getting
accept
it
the
faster
motion.
than we thought.
I will second that. I think for the viewers, we should just remind them that when we first started down this process 18 months ago,
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
we did look at the Chickering Trust to ensure that this was an appropriate use for that. And we reached the conclusion that it could be an appropriate
An
use.
appropriate use.
Also, at the time, we had talked about, whether or not, but I think the request was much larger than the sum of money, because we had talked about potentially not approving the full amount. but-
Mhm. Do we have to decide which part of the trust it comes out of? We're just asking for
Yes.
the 21,000.
Yeah.
George Chickering Cemetery and Park would be the
Thank you.
one.
And that was something else that we talked about.
Okay. So, out of the George Chickering Trust, $21,000.
And can I ask one more question? And
Certainly.
Who does the fence belong to?
The fence belongs to
The town.
the town, and under the
This is
guise.
something that we
Oh.
need to clarify,
Because-
because this was a point of discussion previously, because this comes out of the Chickering Fund, it's, the trust, is this being, it belongs to the town, or how exactly? is
To the
that?
town.
To the town, and I believe that was the genesis of the property demarcation. Right, Carol? Isn't that the whole genesis of this was the property demarcation, where the town boundary actually was, where the residential boundaries ended. So I think.
Yeah, but that was incorrect.
Thank you.
It was not on the correct boundary.
Actually, it was in the correct.
Minor detail.
As long as we determined there was no one buried.
So then, in your minutes, when you write the
Yes.
town, or the selectmen have approved funds and so forth, would you also be agreeable to say that any future repairs, since the town owns the fence, would come out of the selectmen's, or out of the George Chickering Fund or something? But word it somehow that it would not come under, repairs would not come out from the cemetery.
Cemetery.
So construction and ongoing maintenance, or.
Yeah,
Or I don't think you can actually
We
bind
can't.
the board that way.
But Craig, perhaps,
Operating budget,
right, prior
yeah,
repairs.
maintenance, I mean,
Right.
I don't anticipate,
Paul, you said 30 or 40 years? In 30 or 40 years, the board can look at
no, I
the...
didn't say that at all. I said, 5 years, and then we're gonna build a concrete wall.
No. So we can't speak directly, we can't enlist the language. It's assumed or it's presumptive that the town will approve as long as it's town-owned land.
I mean, that's implicit in every maintenance project.
And
every project.
and the precedent's been set
Yeah.
already, the town does repair things out of the operating budget.
So I think as long as we have note that is part of the town operating budget, then it will be part of town operating funds going forward. If everyone is satisfied with that, I would accept a motion to approve the $21,000 from the George Chickering Trust
To move it, right?
to move.
I will move it.
You will move it.
I'll say.
All in favor?
I-
Aye.
So does this mean that I can now call Reliable Fence and say, hey, put this on your docket?
It does. It does indeed.
And I'll ask them to give us a deposit, an invoice, the deposit, which we will.
We'll work out the procurement details, Pope, with the superintendent of streets, who just came back from a recertification of procurement today, so we'll do what we can. I don't know how much of a deposit we can actually offer under the law, but we'll work that out. But you can certainly put them on the docket, the money's available, and we can proceed.
Pope and Carol, before you leave, and thank you again for your hard work on this, I was remiss. I wanted to also set the stage this evening prior to jumping right into this. I know it was the first item and we've talked about it for several weeks, and I know Mr. Ramsey has been a big part of this, but I did want to formally announce to everyone that this year will be Dave Ramsey's final year as he is elected his retirement.
Finally, you're here, please.
Final year here.
Yes, that's it.
Here.
With the Board of Selectmen. Here, not in the
In the universe, hopefully not.
But it's not the fiscal year, it's the calendar.
It's a calendar.
calendar year. The calendar year. So, and I did want to obviously extend our thanks and for all the hard work for the 19 years of service.
It's not over yet,
It's
it's
not
6
over
months.
yet.
The next 6 months as well.
It will be 20 years in August.
Wow,
Yeah.
20 years or not. You did get the ovation at graduation for Dave Ramsey, his staff, and all the work, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you again. So, thank you very much, Cemetery, and thank you, Dave, and I really do appreciate it, and I just want everybody at home to know that, so, and thank you as well.
He still has to work for 6 months.
Thanks.
Our second order of business this evening is a discussion of the Carroll Community Center and the renovation
Welcome to
study.
stay. Okay, thanks.
I got a zoning board.
Okay, good night.
Kate, you say?
Did we
Think
say
Craig.
something?
Well, it's the first order of business, so. The second order of business is discussion of the Carroll Community Center and our renovation study. So, for those of you that were following town meeting and understand the votes, the consequence of 2 votes at town meeting, Article 11 and Article 15, that were both rejected at town meeting. Now, with Mrs. Hunter's amendment to Article 15, we have the ability to study the needs and assessment of Carroll community in the context of a needs analysis, a cost-benefit analysis of moving the building forward, of keeping the building obviously operational, and determining what is going to be the cost of any future repairs to that building. So we will have a timeline that we will establish. We will bring back to, at our next meeting, we will have goals, objectives, timelines, responsibilities of how we will move this process forward. Certainly the goal is to listen to all of our constituents, to understand what everyone's needs will be. It is, and I've said this many times, it's an asset of the town. We have the responsibility to keep the people who are in the building, and we have a responsibility to make sure the building is functional. So even though the town rejected the maintenance articles and the renovation articles, rest assured the Board of Selectmen has the capability to keep the building serviceable. So if there's anything else, Mrs. Hunter or Mr. Springett, that you would like to add, just with regards to our scope, timeline, assessment and the committee that we will have going forward.
So I think it's important for everybody to understand that between now and our next meeting, we will be having some planning meetings as a board, which will be posted. And at those meetings, we will discuss our goals and objectives for the coming fiscal year. One of those is going to be the Carroll Community Center, and we thought it would be most productive for us as a board to have discussions about how to move the project forward. We have a very short timeline. We recognize that. We want to be efficient. We also understand that we need to get input from the various users of the Carroll Community Center. So I think the process we will most likely be presenting is one similar to what we did for 48 Springdale, which worked really well. We had a very short timeline. We feel it's important to just understand when our deliverables are due and move back from there.
Yeah.
So we will be posting some, we're calling them planning meetings that will occur prior to our next official.
Meeting. But I also want to add thank you.
But those will be official meetings too.
And thank you, Mrs. Hunter. I do want to add that those meetings will be posted. These meetings will be open to the public. These meetings will be open to all the stakeholders. These meetings hopefully will be attended by all the people who have spoken about what they would like to see in that building, what that building serves, how that building serves, how the building operates, and how the building, most importantly, will be maintained and run.
But the planning build meetings, we will not be asking for input.
No, we will, exactly.
Right, we will, we will be discussing the best way to move the project forward.
We do have a very tight timeline. We have a very specific set of goals that we have to achieve in a very short period of time. We just have to articulate those to everybody and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Good, yeah, exactly right.
One of the recurring themes we hear is that we don't give regular updates on projects. So we thought that if we were to sit down as a committee and then establish goals and objectives, we could then have a system in place for the year where we would constantly report back on our goals and objectives for the year. So in the hope that we would be able to satisfy the one criticism that we don't give regular updates, even though behind the scenes things will be working on either by the office, the Board of Selectmen's office, or the board. It's important for us to communicate that more effectively.
Mm-hmm. Well said. We will do our best this year to have a set of goals, objectives, guidelines that we will report back to the town on in all of our meetings, not only with regard to the Carroll community, but with regards to the many things that we will have on our plate this year. As
Not too many, because to be successful, you can only have a few.
Several major initiatives.
And we can handle that.
We can handle in 12 months.
Yeah, we can handle in 12 months.
The rest, the office will do for us.
I don't know about that, but, so thank you. Bob, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think that's right. I think that's really what's required.
Thank you. So thank you all. So moving on to our next item, which is to execute the notice of a right of first refusal for 2 Stagecoach Lane, lot number 8. Mrs. Butash, would you like to speak with that?
That would be a vote of the board. We don't actually have a document.
Okay.
This is a little bit different than chapter lands. So back in 2013, the planning board approved the Curry Farms subdivision.
Which is off of Hartford Street, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so one of those lots, lot 8, had a restrictive covenant placed on it in the certificate of action. What it said is after 5 years, if any portion of that lot were put up for sale, then the town would have the right of first refusal to purchase that. There is in fact an existing P&S, and that is with Purdy Farms LLC. And so we, as we always do, sent this out to all of the interested boards and committees and asked them if there was any interest in exercising the right to purchase that parcel, and the answer was uniformly no, thank you. And so we would ask the board this evening to just vote to, that it will not exercise its right of first refusal to purchase Lot 8 at Kirby Farms.
So I would move that we,
Should we give Mr. Springett some background?
Sure.
He's looking like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
deer
I
in
know
the
what,
headlights.
I know what the development is.
Okay, so,
I don't know where lot 8 is.
well,
I think lot 8
It's
is
two stagecoach lane. That's all I know. I think it's on the end.
on the end,
Mhm.
and
So-
if you drive all the way in,
All the way in the back.
it's the one of the...
so background, and correct me if I
Yes.
misspeak in any way. So typically, if there's a 61A restriction
Yes.
on a piece of land, that's an agricultural designation, the town has the first right
Yeah.
of refusal.
Similar to Springdale.
Right, and so any property that has that restriction on, if there's a P&S, it comes to the town first, and the process that we follow is to send that proposal to all the relevant boards and committees. So it goes to the planning board, to the conservation committee, and to open space, is that correct?
It goes to open space, and it also goes to TTOR and DLCT.
And-
So
Right,
all
and
of those parts.
so that way we feel that we've done our due diligence to discover or to determine whether or not this parcel of land could be is of value to the town. And so this piece of land came to our attention, it went through the process, and all the committees came back and said that, no, we're gonna not
Got it.
exercise that right of first
That's right.
refusal. So that's what we're doing here.
Okay.
So I would move that we exercise, I move that we exercise our right not,
You're messing it
That
up.
works, that works.
not to purchase. We exercise our right not to purchase Lot 8, located at 2 Stagecoach Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi. Did we move that motion anywhere?
Perfect, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Thank you.
Thank you. Not just one double negative in there.
Right.
Thank you very much. The next item of business, to vote on the Dover Development Association's letter regarding the offer of a sale and the vote to authorize the town administrator to execute an agreement on that document. Dave, would you like to speak to that?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think this is Pugatch will handle that for us.
The board, this has been in front of the board before. Dover Development Associates has very generously offered to donate 3 parcels of land up off of Hunt Drive, which are contiguous with some other conservation lands, both from private nonprofit and also Conservation Commission. And so the board voted to forward this on to the Conservation Commission for their consideration, and they are most interested in pursuing this. So this letter agreement is with Dover Development Associates, and it just states the particulars of, when we can do our due diligence and, clears us to move forward with this. And so once we do this, then we'll move forward and perform our due diligence.
Okay.
We'll have the site professional come in, and we'll also have a survey done of the properties.
And since this is being donated, we're not going to have an appraisal done, but
Yes.
with some of the other properties,
We have.
we had an appraisal.
We had it done.
Yes, I mean, they, if they request it, we'll look at that, because I assume they're doing this for tax purposes. Yeah, so.
Great.
So then I would like to Do you need a motion?
We need a motion to.
Yes, to
Okay.
authorize the town administrator to execute the letter agreement.
Right, so I would make a motion to authorize the town administrator to execute the letter agreement with respect to the Dover Development Association's sale of certain parcels of land near Hunt Drive.
Bob, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thanks, is it Schlager's separate family, the Schlagers?
It is Lawrence Schlager.
Laura
signed
Schlager's
this
signed it, and
agreement.
Robert is also a brother, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I
So,
believe
the
you.
Schlager family,
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is incredibly generous and it preserves a beautiful piece of property. So thank you. Next item of business is to appoint an animal control officer. And Mr. Ramsey?
Again,
He's
this
going to defer, it's her meeting.
I'm on this
Do
stuff.
you see a trend here?
No, this is the.
Is there an announcement?
The Harbor Rock Master's coming up next.
No. So we were very sorry to see Danielle Estrella move on. She has moved out of state with her family, work considerations. So the police chief put out a job posting. We got 6 responses.
That's impressive.
That's great.
It was great, and of those, 4 of them really did have some qualifications. It was wonderful. And so it was a tough choice. We interviewed the 4, and we both agreed that Laurelyn Sally, who has over a dozen years of experience of animal control in Medfield most recently, is the person we are recommending to the board. She has her certifications, and her references recommended her highly, so we're asking the board to consider appointing Ms. Sally as the new animal control officer in the police department.
I'd accept a motion for
Right,
that.
well, I think kudos, because if you read through the Chief McGowan's memorandum, he wanted to make sure that we did thank the assistant town administrator, who was extremely helpful calling through the,
I enjoyed.
right, and you do a great job.
You do a great job.
And Ms. DeSillo for DeSillo for coordinating all the related paperwork. Nobody wants to get on her bad side when it comes to that.
Oh, that is so true. So thank you both.
Right, yes,
Mona and
thank you
Greer,
very
thank
much.
you both. I know this is a lot of work, and I'm sure the chief appreciates it greatly, as do we. So I would accept a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to accept Lori Sally as the new animal control officer, part-time animal control officer for the town of Dover.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much,
And
and welcome Ms. Sally. When will she begin? Do we,
I
is this
believe
effective
she's got
immediately?
a 2 weeks notice, and then she'll be starting, she's leaving Medfield. The good news is she has another equestrian job here in Dover, so her availability is really
Great.
that's
quite
great.
good. Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing that I'm gonna do is take pictures of my dogs. So when these things are seen roaming around the center of town, please be kind. Send them home.
Don't you have the little,
Doesn't somebody also on Cross Street have a,
Who was brought home in a police vehicle?
yellow lab, right?
Golden.
Golden.
Yeah,
Golden.
does this belong to you? I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, been there. Completely understand that.
Was
So
she
welcome,
visiting?
Sally.
No, they watched her, the police officer watched her go down the driveway, look both ways, and just head off towards the elementary school. Put her in the car and brought her back, but we have a visible fence, so.
Wow, it happens. The next order of business is to appoint issuing authority for temporary mooring permits. Temporary mooring permits. So, yes, docks. Docks and moorings.
harbor masters?
Harbor masters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can speak to this one. So it was recently brought to our attention that if somebody wants to place a seasonal dock in a body of water, in this case in Charles River, they are required to get a temporary mooring permit from somebody designated by the selectmen to authorize that. So my recommendation would be that we authorize the building inspector to be the temporary mooring permit issuing authority.
That sounds
Makes sense.
completely logical to me. So, thank you very much, Mr. Ramsey. And I would accept a motion that we approve our building inspector as for a temporary mooring, up to give our building inspector authorization to approve a temporary mooring permit.
Second, so moved.
Seconded? Seconded?
Right, second.
Moved. Thank you very much. When do we get to see what the moorings look like?
Never.
Never. The boat looks like.
It's probably a canoe.
Appointments.
It's that time of the year.
Yeah, it's that time of year. So, we have 2 appointments. 3 appointments? 2 appointments. 2 appointments, Mr. Ramsey?
2.
2. To reappoint Amy Moot, a 3-year term expiring 2021 on the Conservation Commission, and to reappoint James McLaughlin to a 3-year term expiring on 2021, also to the Conservation Commission. Accept a motion, Mrs. Hunter?
I would make a motion to reappoint both Amy Moot and James McLaughlin, both for 3-year terms for contract.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to Amy Moot and Jim McLaughlin for their service to the town. Greatly appreciated.
Mr. Jeffries, we would like to assign the various boards and committees with vacancies to particular selectmen so that you can start contacting them to see if they have people that they would like to suggest be appointed to the various boards, so. And,
Or reappointed.
yeah.
Thank
So are all the yellow highlights people whose terms need to be?
Those are vacancies, right? And typically the town administrator does the, some of the appointments, staff and that kind of thing.
I do not have my notes from last year.
Last
and I
year we
know that
just
did this.
divided
We
the
divided
pages.
the pages. So, we should have thought about this because we couldn't just say to Bob, well,
There are 18
I'll
pages.
put it to the board of selectmen, these are all yours. That wouldn't be fair, that wouldn't be nice either, but with, so, pages are 1 through 17. Actually,
So
we do have
it's 6
some on
each.
18.
Right.
Correct,
Right.
6 each. So, Mrs. Hunter, do you have a preference, 1 through 6? 6 through 12, 12 through 18?
I'm going to take 12 through 18 because it's half a page.
Mrs. Hunter is taking 12 through 18.
You give me a choice.
Yes, I gave you a choice. Let the record show, I gave Mrs. Hunter the choice. And Mr. Springett, you have second choice. It's like having second pick in the lottery, I guess.
Well, some of this, I think capital budget comes in there on that first grouping, so I'll take 1 to 6.
Did you take 1 through 6? Terrific. And I will take 6 through 12.
And if I could suggest that Mr. Ramsey typically approaches all of the employees to see if they would like to be
That works.
reappointed and
That works
speak to
for
the
us.
police chief about his officers, what his recommendations are. Yeah, so those
So-
are scattered throughout.
Right, so only if it's a committee, town committee, are we responsible? And typically what the best thing to do is to contact the chair and ask the chair. You've been contacted
I think,
before.
yeah.
Right,
I've been through that particular
Right.
process.
Right.
Terrific.
And last year, we set a deadline. That seemed to work really well
So,
to get this done.
To get this done. Mr. Ramsey, did we have this back, our goal was to get this back to you in September,
Followed by
August?
September.
I believe it was September.
Right,
Yes.
so why don't we do the same thing?
Yeah.
It's just hard to reach certain
Certain
people during the
people,
summer,
Do the best we can.
yeah.
So appointments to Mr. Ramsey
By September.
by September.
Well, it actually works out well if we just email them, so once you get them, and then,
And then we can approve them as they come in.
right, and then that way,
And seeing we're
certain
gonna-
people will make sure that they're on the agenda, so we don't forget.
Wow. Carol Lisbon reviews fences.
Yeah, I saw that in the Dover Town report, that was the strangest one.
Okay. So we will do that. We will have on a rolling basis, we will have the, wherever we have people accepting reappointments, we will bring them. And because we're gonna meet at least 17 times over the summer on all the
Before
other
the end of June, I
Before
think.
the end of June, all the other items, we will get those back as they come in. So thank you very much for your agreeing to segment that and the list.
I almost assigned myself page 2 to 18, that would not have been good.
That's a great idea, actually, along with flat screen
It's
TV.
12.
We will keep going.
No,
You found the gavel, Mr. Ramsey, just let the record state.
I didn't surrender it though, Mr. Chairman.
To authorize the building department for the fiscal year 2018 wiring inspector revolving fund increase. Mr. Ramsey?
Mr. Chair, the revolving fund is running in the red because of the additional demands for inspections due to the severe weather. For that to be authorized, the selectmen and the warrant committee both have to agree to the overage. So the building inspector is requesting a $5,000 increase in the authorization for the revolving fund. It's offset by fees, but the internal control requires the selectmen and the warrant committee to authorize the increase in the activity.
and does this get transferred from the reserve fund, or?
No, it's paid for by fees,
Okay,
but revolving funds are capped in terms of dollar amounts of activity
right,
that
okay,
you're being asked to authorize an increase for.
okay. I always forget this.
It doesn't cost the town any money.
So it's strictly a matter of approving the increase that's already been established, yes?
Because
Then
the
I would-
fees offset.
What do you think?
Right.
I think it is something that we absolutely should approve, and I would entertain a motion to approve the authorization for the building department's fiscal year 2018 wiring inspectors revolving fund increase.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Board summer meeting schedule. So,
it's going to be a little non-conventional.
it's going to be a little non-conventional.
So the normal practice, as I understand it, is to have one meeting, one sort of meeting like this a month.
Right, on a
So should we
Thursday.
just put that on the calendar and then?
We should, and then work through the other
The other
meetings
guy.
that we
The other
then
meetings,
host,
yeah.
right.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
It does.
I think
And
the other meetings are going to be harder to schedule. Because the three of us need to be
Right.
available.
Yeah. So when is the normal meeting on a Thursday?
Yes.
It is.
And I'd like to
which-
keep it that way because,
Here in New York.
right, Tuesdays typically I can't meet.
Right. So which Thursday of the month is it? Does it?
It varies in the summer, Mr. Springer.
I think we like to do it at the end of the month, is that?
Closer
what we-
to the end, and staff vacations dictate something. I'm going to be out of town July 23rd through the 27th.
So the
obviously-
26th won't work out.
So that wouldn't work. I don't
How about
know,
the
I
21st?
think Mona's on vacation the week before, and I'm on vacation the first week in July.
So it looks like the 14th.
12th.
12th, July.
No,
No, June.
I mean, yeah, sorry, 12th.
12th of July.
Okay.
All right.
And notice? Just time to turn the page to,
Hey, there you go. Now we're on the same page.
there you go.
Are there vacations scheduled for August?
Not for me.
No?
So a month would be like the 16th?
16th or the 23rd. And the only thing that I believe the 16th is fine. I know I have one son going back to school.
Yeah, plus I have some issues around the end
On
of
the
the
end,
Right,
the
and
23rd. and the
right, so
30th.
let's do the 16th.
Okay.
And then we'll fill in, because those other meetings don't have to be on a Thursday.
Correct.
Right.
Great.
Other business.
Other business. Highway award for the bit.
Bituminous cement,
Bituminous
I love that
concrete
word.
in-place bids. Mr. Ramsey? Mrs. Budash.
Mr. Jacobs. The bituminous concrete pipe in-place bids were opened on May 31st. We had a total of 7 bidders, which was great. There was a lot of competition. And the low bid was LaRusso Corporation, located in Plainville, not Walpole. There's a competing cousin in Walpole. And his bid was for $69.20 per ton. And that's great. Last year's was $68 per ton, so it's really, similar. And the superintendent of streets is asking for you to award this bid to the Russo Corporation in Plainville.
Whose cousin we purchased the sand from, the pre-washed sand.
Right.
Oh,
right.
keeping the Russo family members happy. I would accept a motion that we approve the bid of $68.
Just out of curiosity, and maybe neither of you know the answer to this, what drives up the cost of bituminous
Mr.
cement?
Ramsey would know.
Essentially oil.
Gasoline.
Okay, all right.
It's-
Because if I recall, last year it was substantially lower than the year before,
It was $68 last year.
The
right?
year before was
I don't
probably-
recall.
Yeah,
It does,
okay,
it
that's
it
what-
fluctuates.
It does have,
Right.
the gas prices, oil prices do have
Right,
an impact on
right,
it,
right.
so. But I do know that Craig has had a great relationship with the bidders, and so he really
So
does a good job.
these firms are all well known.
These firms are all well-known,
And-
and
Have we ever used LaRusso?
we've used
Well,
LaRusso,
we use T.L.
we've used,
Edwards often, right?
Right.
right, we've
Yeah.
used aggregate,
Aggregate,
T.L.
yeah.
Edwards, we use LaRusso, both LaRussos for sand, wash sand, and salt. So they are providers. This is their business. These are providers. These are firms we've done business with in the past. And then, as you can see, it's fairly close, depending upon, what your,
Well, they're-
what projects.
Right,
It was good. It was a really competitive process.
Right, it was.
Which is nice.
Mr. Chief Hughes does a very good job with the process and the bids.
Mhm.
It's very,
Well,
And managing
sometimes
the
you don't-
contracts.
and managing the contracts
You
and
can't control who's
deliveries.
gonna come in.
for
and
this.
out.
No, you can't.
So I would accept, Mrs. Hunter, you were about to make a motion to
You're gonna make me work? All right,
Yes,
so I'll make a
accept.
motion.
$68 per ton.
No, it isn't, it's
I'm sorry,
$69.20.
$69.20. Last year's bid, I
Right.
apologize.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the LaRusso Corp. bid of $69.20 for our bituminous concrete.
So,
Seconded? Seconded?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, a reserve fund transfer for building maintenance. In the amount of $6,000, Mr. Ramsey?
Yes, Mr.
Building
Chairman.
maintenance requested in the amount of $6,000. Anything unusual about this, Mr. Ramsey? It seems very straightforward.
It's our last one of the year, I hope, Mr. Chairman.
From your lips to God's ears, right?
So just a question, and this is my memory being foggy. So was it this year that we approved the AC for the Blue Room?
It was last year.
Last year?
Little capital budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so is this a repair to it, or is it just the costs were higher?
Costs were $6,000 more than we
than the-
budgeted.
Right, because I remembered that from capital budgets. You know, we always get a proposal, but the problem is it's 18 months, so sometimes these things happen.
It's very rare, actually, but it did occur this time.
Okay, I just wanted to, I did recall,
It's a split unit, right?
Yeah, but it's not a typical split unit because of its location and its size.
The actual location is between the buildings, isn't it?
Well, the condenser unit has to go on, essentially on the roof because of its location at the front of the kettle. So it's unique. Usually it's right outside the window where they're cooling. This is very different, so it's costing more money for installation.
also the blue room is
Goes
there.
back to our
in front.
conversation of blowing it right off the roof, way that it had to be hooked up. So I would accept a motion for accepting the $6,000 capital transfer.
I will make that motion, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, both. Annual cystic fibrosis cycle for life. Chief McGowan has requested October 6, 2018, the 31st year, his 7th recommendation for authorizing the ride. He has no problems and looks forward to the ride. And thank you for the organizers coming to us and to the chief, and everything seems to be in order. Accept a motion to approve the Cycle for Life cystic fibrosis ride on October 6th. Seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And special licenses.
Well, maybe we should, you know, it's a good way to break somebody into the
It is a
committee. I
good
know
way.
how much you love it, so
I-
maybe we should let Mrs. Springett do
Mrs.
it.
Springett, I want you to know that this is my favorite part of the meeting. And I'm, thanks, Rick. It is our favorite part of the meeting.
It is.
Because we get to read about parties we didn't get invited to.
But maybe,
Of course.
but maybe you have been invited to some of these, the two of us have struck out.
You've been invited. Maybe you will set a new precedent. So I am going to turn this over to you to read the requests of the one-day special.
And you only have to
licenses.
read the summary.
The summary of the first page.
And,
Let's see, so I would need, make a motion to approve the requests from Elm Bank. The event is a wedding on June 23rd. The American Legion in Dover, it's a 60th birthday party on June 24th.
okay, we could look to see who's 60th birthday.
I haven't received my invitation yet, so I...
Neither am I, and there's no name. There's no name here.
The location is Elm Bank for a wine festival and fundraiser for Mass Farm Wineries and Growers Association. They expect to have 18 to 20 vendors on July 15th, and again at Elm Bank, the wedding on July 28th.
That's my sister's birthday.
Yes. So,
So
thank you
I-
very much. Well done, Mrs. Springett.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. While we are on the subject of birthday parties, very special announcement to make this evening that there is a birthday happening today in my household. It's not my birthday, but there were a lot of flowers delivered. I believe it's a 38th birthday,
Not 29th?
not 29th. It would be very hard to be a 29th birthday when you have a 27-year-old daughter, so I'm just saying. But there is a very special, and by the way, they're not happy birth dates anymore, it's just happy days. I was told that. So
So
there's a happy
my-
day in my house today.
My husband celebrates a birth month.
That sounds expensive.
It's a special occasion.
It was the Queen of Hearts who has the unbirthday celebration. She had it really now.
He says embrace your birthday, so why not go with the birth month? If anybody has ideas, July is the birth month.
So we have to approve the minutes.
We do.
We do have to approve minutes of May 3rd and May 17th. May 3rd, I was present. May 17th, I was not present at that meeting. So give everybody a minute just to.
Well, John, I was not at either of those.
I know.
But
So, we can approve May 3rd. Actually, you can approve the minutes. You can approve the minutes even though you were not present because you now are a member of the board,
right.
of which a meeting that I was not present at. That meeting.
This sounds a little,
Yeah. There's been a lot of nuance to this evening, but
Right,
I think everything's done exactly as it's supposed to.
Right.
So I would accept a motion to approve the minutes of May 3rd.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Mrs. Hunter, I believe you can make a motion to approve the minutes of May 17th.
Yes, I can. I was the only member present at that meeting. And somehow Mr. Jeffries was able to write the minutes.
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing, quite impressive.
Mona DiCillo,
I-
how we-
But
how she does
I
this.
can, I will make a motion to accept these minutes. They
And Mr.
are a good
Sweeney?
reflection of what
Second.
occurred.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you both. Citizens' comments. Ms. Kinney? Good. I'd like to add one final thing to our meeting this evening, which has been fun and exactly on time and a lot accomplished and a lot of thanks to everyone here.
2 minutes early.
2 minutes early, noted at home and Rick 2 minutes early. But to those at home and to everybody here, a very special thank you and sincere thank you from myself. I know Mrs. Hunter, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Springer will join me in this. And we had an election in the town of Dover. We had a vote. The vote was favorable in Mr. Springer's favor. Welcome him to the board. But we really want to take a moment to thank Candace McCann for everything that she's done for this board. And for the people, it was
And for the town.
And for the town, thank you. Exactly, for the town. Jim Rapetti says at the beginning of town meeting, we can disagree without being disagreeable. And I think it exemplifies exactly what happened. We had issues, we have a vote, and we come together as a town and we move forward. So it's a great opportunity to grow, to learn, to expand, most importantly, to say thank you. So on behalf of myself, the board, to everybody who took part in the election process, to you, Mr. Springer, who ran the campaign, and to Candace, thank you both for just doing a very admirable, respectable job. And I think you both were a credit to the town.
I would agree, and I would like to say I hope it's not goodbye to Candace supporting, doing work for the town. I hope that she will continue to serve the town wearing a different hat. She certainly has knowledge of how the town operates, and she's passionate about certain things, and I hope if we reach out to her to see if she will fill one of these openings that we have on many committees. She's a huge asset to the town.
She
So
really
thank you,
is.
Candace.
Thank you, Candace, and thank you to everyone else who was a part of the process. Anything else?
I just walk away from that whole thing with a couple of impressions. One, it was a respectful process.
Agreed.
And I think that in today's political environment, in many other areas, that it stands out. And I think the second thing is that it is real, the democracy in and of itself, at the grassroots level, is an amazing process. It's a humbling process, it's a learning process, it's a listening process. And in the town of Dover especially, people do listen, they do hear, and for all those who do participate actively, it's thank you for that. It was just really a very humbling learning experience.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, this evening. Rick, thank you. Mary, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everything and paper. And again, to Mr. Ramsey, thank you. It's going to be a very important year, and to thank everyone at home. We look forward to seeing you all again soon. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Can I bang the gavel?
you can bang again. More gentle than I am.